AEW brings Dynasty to you this weekend from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It's All Elite Wrestling's second pay-per-view offering of the year. And just what does AEW and Tony Khan have up their sleeve for this pay-per-view offering? We're going to get into some major possible surprises being planned by Tony Khan and co for this weekend's major pay-per-view event in this countdown video. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of stories to get into. Before we get into anything though, particularly this countdown video, first of all, a huge thank you. As you can see right here, we have finally hit 20,000 subscribers. The WNU, the Wrestle News universe, is expanding all the time. Appreciate everyone that subscribed recently, people that's been subscribed since day one, wherever you've come along to the Wrestle News 365 universe. It is much appreciated. This was my goal. 20k for this year. So the fact that today on April 1st, it's not an April Fool's joke, we have hit 20,000 subscribers. It's really much appreciated. And if you're watching us for the first time right now, be sure to join the over 20,000 people that have subscribed to this channel. Click the notification bell. You'll be notified when we upload the daily news videos, countdown videos like this, as well as upcoming live streams. If you check out the sidebar, as always, you can see all of the upcoming live streams, including WrestleMania Nights 1 and 2, AEW Dynasty this coming Sunday. We'll be live for a watch-along and a post-show. In addition to that, you can find out all of the details on other things on the channel, such as joining the WN365 roster. All you have to do, click the link in the video description. It's also a QR code which you can scan on the sidebar too in just a few seconds. You get your badges, your emojis, and your exclusive members-only content, which includes gaming streams. The retro gaming streams are back. You can scan the QR code right there. It's much appreciated. You can join the WN365 roster. Right, let's talk about AEW Dynasty, of course, this weekend, this Sunday, from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It's AEW's next pay-per-view offering after presenting Revolution back at the beginning of March. And there are several big matches that have been announced for the show, several title matches that are set to take place at the event as well. And as always, AEW's pay-per-view offerings sometimes turn up some surprises. So possible spoilers ahead that we might be getting into, because let's get into some possible surprises that Tony Khan may have planned for AEW Dynasty in Philadelphia. Now, let's begin with one that seems pretty obvious considering where this is going, and that is FTR turning on Cope. Now, this coming Sunday at AEW Dynasty in Philadelphia, there will be an AEW World Trios Championship match as the Death Riders Claudio Castagnoli, Pac, and Wheeler Yuta defend the AEW World Trios Championships against Rated FTR. Of course, Rated FTR is the combination of Cope, Adam Copeland, Edge, whatever you want to call him, and FTR's Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood. And as we've seen in recent weeks, there's been some tension when it comes to FTR and Cope, namely because Cope couldn't get the job done when it comes to defeating Jon Moxley and winning the AEW World Championship. Of course, it didn't happen in the main event of AEW Revolution. That's because Christian Cage cashed in his opportunity to become AEW World Champion, turned it into a triple threat match. Moxley actually choked out Christian Cage, and Edge Copeland wasn't involved in the finish. This then led to a street fight rematch on a subsequent episode of Dynamite, but once again, Moxley was victorious, and after that match, you saw some frustration with Dax Harwood. He was going to pull, I guess, Copeland back to his feet. Cope had his arm out to say, pick me up, and he decided not to. He decided to walk away, and as he was walking away, Cash Wheeler tried to get over him, he shoved him, he walked away. Now, there have been tensions in interviews. We've seen situations where Howard had a match recently on AEW Collision, which he didn't win, and there was confusion between him and Cash Wheeler. So it looks like certainly, doesn't it? It looks certainly like there's going to be a turn of some kind. Now, the obvious one that is being suggested here is that FTR, whilst it's being teased that FTR could split up and maybe there's issues because Cash Wheeler doesn't like what Dax Harwood's doing and Cash Wheeler isn't happy that Dax Harwood is seemingly frustrated and walking out on Cope, there's been a suggestion that maybe it could be FTR that split up. We know that's not going to happen. Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler are good singles wrestlers, but the money is them being a tag team. They're one of the most successful tag teams in AEW history and recent pro wrestling history, of course, are FTR. So FTR aren't going to split up. So that would lead to the, I guess, conclusion that Cash Wheeler realizes that Dax Harwood was right this whole time, and this leads to FTR attacking Adam Copeland, and then you get to a situation where it's Copeland needing a tag team partner, possibly for AEW All in Texas, and that leads to FTR versus Copeland and Christian, which many people think, despite the feud that they have had since Copeland's arrived in AEW, we're going to see the former tag team partners, the former best friends, the former kayfabe brothers reunite once again for tag team action in the future, and possibly that could be against FTR. Now, that's the scenario where FTR turn on Cope, but others are suggesting that maybe all of this is a bit of a red herring. Maybe they want the audience, AEW, to think that it's going to be FTR that turn on Cope, but what if Cope turns on FTR? What if many people are expecting Harwood and Wheeler to walk out on Cope in this AEW World Trios Championship match, and instead it's Cope that walks out on FTR, considering the disrespect that FTR have put against Cope in the build-up to AEW Dynasty? What if Cope says, no, I'll walk out on you, he turns heel, and that's how he pairs up with Christian Cage? Because, of course, Christian Cage is one of the most dastardly heels in AEW. Does it make any sense for Christian Cage to suddenly be a babyface? Now, there have been rumblings and rumors of issues within the patriarchy, so maybe that's how Christian Cage will turn babyface. The patriarchy turns on him, he becomes a babyface, he links up with Cope, who's had his issues with FTR, and it leads to a tag team match at AEW All in Texas. But there is a turn that's going to happen here. That feels the most likely situation, isn't it? That we're going to get the split of rated FTR, and certainly we're not going to get new AEW World Trios champions. Now, next possible surprise, could Chris Jericho retain his Ring of Honor World Championship and in the process unmask Bandito, because there is a title versus mask match set for AEW Dynasty for the Ring of Honor World Championship. Chris Jericho, the Ring of Honor World Champion, is defending his title against Bandito. Now, most people are assuming, well, if it's a title versus mask match, it's very unlikely that Bandito is going to lose and be unmasked. That would be really, really unlikely, wouldn't it? Now, the next sort of stage in all of this storyline between Jericho and Bandito has been about masks. Of course, there was going to be a Ring of Honor World Championship match on the AEW Revolution 0 Hour pre-show between Jericho and Gravity. It never happened. Instead, Jericho and the Learning Tree, they attacked Gravity. They beat him down with Floyd the baseball bat. In Gravity's mother, sister, of course, the same mother and sister for Bandito as well, because Bandito is Gravity's brother. They were out, they were traumatized in the ring, and in the end, Jericho removed the mask of Gravity, humiliating him. Also, I guess, upsetting and making, and it's a horrible moment for the family of Bandito and Gravity. Now, subsequently, as you can see right there, Bandito has got the mask back of his brother, and it's led to this title versus mask match. Now, Jericho's already defeated Bandito on a couple of occasions, so many are suggesting, well, at this point, it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it, that really Jericho would drop the championship, and this would then lead to Jericho and the Learning Tree and all this kind of stuff just kind of going away for a while, and then then we kind of move on. But the reason why there could be an unmasking here is because Ring of Honor does have a pay-per-view coming up in the not too distant future. Now, usually Supercard of Honor takes place during WrestleMania weekend. That's not happening this year. Instead, it's going to be a little bit later, and it's not going to be in Las Vegas. What we're going to see is Supercard of Honor taking place on May 2nd. And it's going to be taking place in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Now, if Ring of Honor wants to sell tickets, then maybe they keep Jericho as the champion and have him drop the championship at the Supercard of Honor pay-per-view in May, early May. So that's about a month from now at the time of recording this video. So how do you get there? Well, you get there not by Jericho dropping the championship at AEW Dynasty, unless there's a rematch, unless there's a situation where Bandito finally defeats Jericho, wins the Ring of Honor World Championship, keeps his mask in the process, and then they have the rematch at the Supercard of Honor event. But how do you raise the stakes? How do you go from mask versus title just back to a title match? That doesn't make any sense. So maybe there'll be a situation where Jericho does indeed unmask Bandito, and then they have to elevate the stakes even more. So as much as this one feels unlikely, I don't think you can rule out the possibility that Jericho could actually unmask the Luchador and keep the Ring of Honor World Championship in the process. Now, could this be the time that we see Josh Alexander debut in AEW? Josh Alexander, of course, left TNA Wrestling back in February. His contract expired at the end of that month. And subsequently, reports came out that Alexander was indeed All Elite. There was a bidding war between WWE and AEW, and Alexander took the offer with the highest monetary value, which was AEW. Ever since then, we've been waiting for the walking weapon to arrive in All Elite Wrestling. So far, no appearance. There have been rumors that this is because AEW is working on his visa, getting his visa sorted before he can officially make his AEW debut. Now, this could be happening at AEW Dynasty. There's quite a few different methods of which this could happen. I think the critical thing here is the beginning of the Owen Hart Foundation Cup tournament. We know that the Owen is beginning. Usually, we have matches that go through to sort of double or nothing, or the finals happen in Calgary. Now, that's the important thing here. Now, there are a lot of big names at the time of recording this video that aren't booked for AEW Dynasty this weekend. The likes of MJF, the likes of Hangman Adam Page, the likes of Kazuchika Okada, and others all don't have matches this weekend at Dynasty at the time of recording this video on Tuesday, the 1st of April, which has led a lot to speculate that actually we could see some Owen Hart Foundation tournament matches this weekend in Philadelphia. Now, usually with these kind of tournaments, usually there's a situation where we see wildcards. And to me, it feels like a wildcard certainly could be Josh Alexander. It would make a lot of sense, wouldn't it? Owen Hart, a Canadian pro wrestling legend. Josh Alexander, a famous Canadian wrestler, certainly would admire Owen Hart and the entire Hart family. It's just a great way to debut Josh Alexander in All Elite Wrestling, isn't it? So Josh Alexander could make his debut as soon as this weekend if indeed there is a wild card match. Let's say that MJF is facing a wild card. Let's say, I don't know, Hangman Adam Page or whoever is facing a wild card. Let's say Will Ospreay is facing a wild card. We could see a situation where indeed Josh Alexander is that wild card and does make his AEW debut. Now, some of those names I've mentioned there, Hangman Page, MJF, Will Ospreay, they're all names that are expected to go quite far or possibly even win the tournament. So would you debut Alexander in a match where he's going to lose? I suppose it depends how Tony Khan is going to book out this tournament. But Alexander making his debut as a wild card in the Owen Hart Foundation Cup tournament, if indeed there are matches this coming weekend at Dynasty, which is not confirmed just yet, that does seem like something that AEW would do to create a buzz. Or do they save it for after AEW Dynasty if they want to create a buzz in the post-Dynasty episode? That's certainly something that they could do. But I wouldn't rule out the possibility of Alexander making his AEW debut this weekend in Philadelphia. Now, this is building, isn't it? That is Kazuchika Okada versus Kenny Omega. If it was inevitable at some point, most likely AEW All in Texas at Globe Life Field, we're going to be getting Omega versus Okada for the first time in many years since their classic matches in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Ever since Okada signed with AEW, this has been teased. Now, when he signed, Kenny Omega was injured. Since then, they've had a couple of face-offs. Once when Omega was injured, the Elite took him out so he could have surgery. When Omega returned to AEW World's End, who did he confront? Kazuchika Okada. What was in the background? AEW All in Texas. They've been teasing this for so much time. Now, Kenny Omega is in action this weekend at AEW Dynasty. He's defending the AEW International Championship in a three-way against Ricochet and Speedball Mike Bailey. Now, I think a lot of people expect Kenny Omega to retain the championship. It would be a major surprise if he dropped the title to Ricochet or Speedball in this one. So I think the alpha indeed here, the cleaner, whatever you want to call him, the best bout machine, does retain the AEW International Championship. But I think we see a parallel to what we saw at World's End. At World's End, Kazuchika Okada retained the AEW Continental Championship by winning the Continental Classic Tournament. He was then confronted by Kenny Omega, and they had the face-off in front of the AEW All in Texas sign. I think we see a situation where Kenny Omega defeats Ricochet, defeats Speedball Mike Bailey in that three-way match, retains the AEW International Championship in the process, and this time it's Kazuchika Okada that confronts Kenny Omega, once again paving the way for this match at AEW All in Texas. There have been suggestions that we could be getting a unification match, a Continental Championship versus International Championship match All in Texas, and the titles are then unified. Who would win that one? Let's save that discussion for a later date. But I think once again, this coming Sunday at AEW Dynasty, we have another seed be planted for the eventual matchup that deserves a stadium. It's a stadium level match, isn't it? Omega versus Okada. And I think another seed could indeed be planted as soon as this Sunday. Now, Okada, as of right now, he's not booked for AEW Dynasty. As I mentioned earlier on, when it comes to the Owen Hart Cup Foundation tournament, things could change quite quickly here, couldn't they? Because Okada might declare his entry. He already won a tournament in AEW, that being the Continental Classic. Therefore, he's going to win another one. That might be indeed the direction that Okada's going in. So he might be competing at Dynasty. We just don't know at this point. There's still an episode of Dynamite and Collision to go. We could get more answers there. But even if it doesn't happen the way that I've sort of presented it there after Omega's match, I still think on pay-per-view, we're going to get some kind of interaction. I think that's going to pave the way and lay more foundations for Okada versus Omega at All In Texas. And finally, a major surprise could be a brand new AEW World Champion. Swerve Strickland, of course, is set to face off against Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship in the main event of the show, and it just feels like the time is right. I mean, you didn't think that Jon Moxley was going to drop the AEW World Championship at AEW Revolution against Cope. Would they really put the title on Cope, who's now in his 50s? There was a feeling that maybe Cope could win and pass it to Christian Cage very quickly, but a lot of people said, is that really the right thing to do? Do you want the World Championship on two older ex-WWE superstars? Maybe not. Swerve Strickland does feel like the guy in AEW, doesn't he? And there's a story to be told here. A year ago at this very pay-per-view, Swerve Strickland won the AEW World Championship for the first time, defeating Samoa Joe and holding the championship until AEW All In London when he was defeated by Bryan Danielson. Since then, Swerve, he feels more legitimate, he feels more like a main eventer, and mainly the whole Death Rider storyline really has kind of died a death. Where do you go from here? I know Moxley talks in these riddles and talks about, trying to elevate AEW or protect it from people, and I think lots of people just want to see it end and want to see AEW move into a different direction, and that direction could be Swerve Strickland holding the AEW World Championship. And then if he were to win the AEW World Championship, you look forward to where would AEW be going next? Well, many people look to what the Owen Hart Foundation Cup tournament is going to look like on the men's side of things. Of course, we know for both tournaments, men and female, they'll be getting a World Championship match at AEW All In Texas. And when you think about the possibility of Swerve Strickland versus Hangman Adam Page renewing their vicious, violent rivalry in the main event of AEW's biggest show of the year, their first ever stadium show in the United States. I know you could say Arthur Ashe Stadium counts, but certainly the first ever stadium pay-per-view in the United States. That would be a big match, and that certainly would make a lot of sense. Now, what could stop this? Well, you get the impression that if Swerve were to lose this weekend, it couldn't be clean. So would we see a situation where Prince Nana does turn on Swerve Strickland? Does anybody want to see that at this point? It was a surprise that I did kind of pitch for Revolution, and I thought we were going to see it when we had Swerve Strickland versus Ricochet. In the end, we didn't, but it just feels like it's time, doesn't it? Now, this is far from guaranteed at this point, and maybe the plan has always been for Moxley to hold the championship until All In Texas, and maybe drop it to Darby Allin or something like that. At one point, Darby Allin was listed as the next world champion, but Swerve Strickland does feel like one of those people that is just carrying AEW on his shoulders. He's having great matches. He's developing. He does a lot of press and a lot of promo, and you feel like Swerve it might be the right time for Swerve to become a two-time AEW World Champion. So another major surprise could be the end of Moxley's run as the AEW World Championship. Maybe Swerve Strickland is the person to retrieve that championship out of Moxley and the Death Riders briefcase. We shall see. So there you go, guys. Those are some major surprises, major possible surprises we could see at AEW Dynasty this weekend. What are your thoughts on some of those? Do you think I've gone too far? Are there some that I've missed? Are there some that are more likely than others? Let me know your thoughts and reaction, as always, your opinions, your hot takes in the comment section below. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. I don't know what the next milestone is. Would we say 25k? I think we've still got to take it 1k at a time. So let's see if we can get to 21k first, because I was not expecting to be at 20k this year at all. So once again, huge thank you, much appreciated. All of you that are subscribed currently to the channel. If you haven't already, you can join the WNU, that Wrestle News universe. All you got to do is subscribe. If you wish to join the WN365 roster, click the join button, links in the video description. Also, you can scan the QR code. And once again, keep an eye out on this sidebar for all of the watch-alongs coming up. That includes AEW Dynasty this weekend, and we'll be live 15 minutes before the pay-per-view goes live on the air for a watch-along and a post-show. And we got plenty of watch-alongs and post-shows coming up, whether it's for Raws, SmackDowns, WrestleMania, Stand and Deliver, Raw after WrestleMania, you name it, we're going to be covering it. So if you haven't already, click that notification bell and you'll be notified indeed when we go live. Appreciate everyone that's tuned in, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.